These folks need some sleep because they have a baby. Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go! Hey, it's George the Antique Nomad, and it's the night before the New Harmony Antique Show and Appraisal Fair. I'm very excited to be the guest appraiser. It's the first time I've gotten to do an appraisal fair in a long time, and I'm going to have a video all about that. I wanted to show you real quickly what the setup is going to be, and then I will film as much as I can in the morning before we open and during whatever breaks I get during the appraisal fair. There's dealers out on the street and antique stores behind them. And then, like I say, there's a bunch of dealers inside in the air conditioning. I wanted to get some of these things on film before we get started because there will be a crowd here today. And a lot of this stuff won't be here by the time I get a chance to film again. So I thought I'd at least give you a preview and try to do just a little shopping while I can. Because when I'm an appraiser, I don't buy anything people bring to appraisals. It's a conflict of interest, so I have to do my shopping out here at the show. These are cute, the little beer bottles, and this one's a Chicago souvenir for trophy beer. Old hotel keys and their fobs are collectible. This one's especially interesting. This is Japanese from 1945, so really early in the occupation. Let's brag, artist proof. These are an interesting set of serigraphs. Here's the pediatrician.
Yeah, we're over an hour away from home. We've been here
The anesthesiologist. These are really fun. Medical stuff is selling, and these are fun because the gynecologist, well, we know what that's about. A brain surgeon. There's a whole series of these. This is a really fun thing. I have only seen a few things by this artist before. Nice double sink. A lot of people are using these for parties and ice coolers and such now. And it's great because they roll. And yes, parking meters are collectible now. They're being taken out of cities and replaced by automatic things that charge way more. Also a nice wall phone there. Wall phones, very collectible as well. Old telephones are pretty hot these days. Fire's House Antiques always has great signs and huge signs. They're getting bigger and bigger. I don't know how you carry this stuff. This is a cute dexterity game because it's specific to cartoon characters, and I did not know they did one for Blondie. And it was throw your rings on the target. You probably have to take it and reassemble it a little bit so that the pin that they go on is in there because it's missing its back, but it's very cute and it's only $12 as it is. It'd just be fun for the graphics. This is the Gotham Big Shot. It's a push 'em up or a bagatelle, and this is going to have been made about 1935. You can tell by the deco design, and it's by the Gotham Press Steel Corporation of New York that made the Little Giant line. A lot of the beginning of marketing towards children was in the Depression because they needed any way they could to get people to buy stuff. So you start making things for children. I'm sure Gotham Press Steel made a lot of other things that were not the Little Giant line. But that's a pretty cool one, and it's $60. These are not that expensive to collect, and they're graphically really big and fun. It's just such an interesting range of merchandise here because you've got stuff that's straight out of farms and old stores and houses, and then you have advertising and Breweriana. Look at that great concrete eagle. That is pretty fantastic, sitting on the globe. And here's one of these really cool pieces that folds into a table. Looks like a bunch of shelves, but that will fold flat. If you look at my video from Sparks, Kansas, I show how one of those actually works. This one's got concrete things in front of it, so I can't show you this one because I can't move it. Only $32 for that old frame turned into a shadow box. That was nicely done. Seems like a very good price. This Chinese sewing basket has a little more going than they usually do. Someone had fun embellishing it. It's only $10. That seems very inexpensive. They've got a bunch of old typeface things. Some of the old advertising ones do well, especially if they've got a good graphic. Print blocks. And these mostly are Christmas and New Year, so someone will have fun with those. The old tractor sprinkler that would run around the lawn and look like a tractor. And yes, blow molds. And gosh, the pumpkin's only $24. That seems pretty reasonable. It's a little faded. Snoopy's $48. He should be more because he's Snoopy. And you gotta love Frankenstein. How much is he? $58, and he works. And how nice to find a bunch of print drawers that are still affordable. These used to be a lot more commonplace, but a lot of people have turned them into shadow boxes and tables. And now people are collecting the printer drawers and using them, so they're not taking them out of the old furniture anymore. A bunch of little Currier and Ives prints in the $25 to $35. These do not sell for as much as they used to, unless they were someone who was very famous at the time, like the Queen or Abraham Lincoln. Then they go for bigger money. My friend Ben has this double space here. He's in the blue and white shirt. He's got different things than he had before, and he's got something really cool that I did not know about. See this tubular piece here? This is to pull water out of a well. Notice it seals at the bottom, and when you drop it to the bottom of the well, then hitting bottom will push that metal piece up. The piece fills with water, and then they could draw it out. I hadn't seen one of these before. I'm used to the old oaken bucket, but the old oaken bucket was wide and hard to pull up out of the water. So these were thin, so you were just getting the water you needed and not having to pull against as much pressure to try to get it out. Old Smith Corona typewriter sign could go with somebody's collection. Sweet potatoes for sale, cheap enough to eat. Not sure what else you would do with them. This is really cool. Historical Atlas of Indiana. Baskin Forster. This would have been printed sometime right around the 1890s, I would think, but this is a reprint. Oh, it was done in 1876, reprinted in 1968. There are a lot of reprints of this sort of thing around the 60s and 70s because there was a lot of nostalgia for that time. So you do want to look inside the cover with these. He really does have some cool stuff. He does a lot of advertising and other things as well. This is neat. This is Order of Foresters. This is another fraternal organization. We don't see a whole lot from the Order of Foresters, but this one says that the Executive Council has granted membership to Henry Graham. This is sometime in the late 1800s. They were founded in 1874. The McCoy butterfly is something interesting. And then just a lot of fun little stuff. Kentucky Homecoming from Louisville, that's pretty cool. Trojan knife, that's advertising. That's a great deal if it was in a little better shape. Iron door knocker. And a bologna pencil sharpener. I think I've got to have that. Peerless complexion powder, that's fun. Uber might be great and all, but a thinking fellow rides a dependable yellow cab. It says so right there on that $10 ashtray. Now these folks have the store behind, which is Backbeats and the Just Looking Antiques, and they are doing so well with books and records that they're actually going to let some of these pieces go a little bit cheaper than they had on them. They do have a lot of Pyrex. They do have some Corel. A great price on these rattan stools, $40 for the pair. I thought it was awfully good. These are kind of interesting, even though they're newer, but they're Formica and steel, and they're actually kind of a neat look. And then this crazy red lampshade on this great lamp. Very dashing. Looks like a pirate, I suppose. And it's $125, but she says she will discount. because she is trying to get rid of some of the bigger things in the store. She said that a lot of people driving out to New Harmony buy smalls because they come from long distances, so they're not necessarily set up to take furniture as much. So she's got the original butterfly chairs for $135 each. She's got a good deal on the Haywood Wakefield rattan, and that rotates, and I think she's got $175. I am seriously tempted to get that from her. And then I really like these two end tables, $135 for the pair. I almost think I could make money on those in Florida. These folks have a really interesting table from the 1920s. I've seen lots with this sort of a base. I haven't seen this base before, though. It's quite ornate. It sort of looks like a ship's wheel with a little bit of fluting. They are having a Robert Owen 250th anniversary celebration. Robert Owen was the industrialist from Scotland who came over here, bought this colony from a group who had started it, who were farmers from Pennsylvania, and they sold to him, and he turned it into a commune that was supposed to be a paradise for workers. And he did introduce a lot of innovations like free library, emphasis on education, women being educated for the first time. So a lot of firsts in New Harmony thanks to Robert Owen. These are cute. These are Korean though. Interesting. Royal Crown. That is not a name I've seen before. I thought they were older from the look. There's something under this table that's really cool. I'll show you some tins and things while we go look at it. New in the box, the Marks Army Jeep with Searchlight trailer. Just having the box in that kind of condition is pretty amazing because back then kids threw the boxes away. Neat little silhouette here with a little bit of color and the advertising piece. Model Toys was another one that did good quality steel toys like Buddy L and Structo. We don't see as many things by Model Toys, but this crane here is $200. It's going to date to about 1950. Here's a very pretty mesh purse with the paint. It is Whiting and Davis. It's priced at $175. It's got the original box and it is in near perfect condition. Here's something interesting. G.W. Gale and Axe Chesapeake Fine Cut. So this is a tobacco humidor and it's in pretty good shape. A little bit of the gold is missing. It was never finished on the back. It wasn't painted in that way. And then when you take it off, the lid's in good shape. And the bottom says Avalon Faience of Baltimore. So this is a very small, obscure company that would have worked. Sometime faience was a term used in ceramics that was very popular around 1900 or 1910. And they are asking $75, and I'm tempted by that because I've never seen it before. Orange beads. This is unusual because of the color. Orange wasn't a color everybody could wear, so even though it was in style, a lot of jewelry was not made in this color. It's $40 for this very long string, which I think is a pretty reasonable price. One of them seems to have damage, one bead though, and I don't really know what I could do about that. These little cards look like cigarette cards, but they say Church and Company's Arm & Hammer soda. So this is what you got in Arm & Hammer baking soda. Primarily birds, fish, and fauna. Lots of these little pencils from various advertising things, 40s and 50s era. Cooper tires, that's a good one. Especially because it's from Cooper directly. This is really fun. Perfect for oyster shooters, yes. The glass bake little crabs. Little crab cakes would be baked in those as well. And then, oh, well, we know that there's someone out there who loves typewriter ribbons, so I'm going to tease her with this. I wish I knew what she had and didn't have, because I could probably buy some for her. Neat collection. Carter's Ideal, the Elk. I like this Art Deco, which tells us on the bottom that it is royal. This still has the ribbon in it. You can see it's never been used. Cute collection. And then pinups. I love pinups. How you can go wrong with pinups, I do not know. These are tobacco tags, another interesting little collection. And the axe would have been to pry open the tobacco tin, that's why it has a little notch there. They would put these tags on little clumps of loose leaf tobacco so that they could brand them. And you'll see some of the big companies, Liggett & Myers, for example, and a lot of little ones. Well, I'm sure having fun here at the Appraisal Fair and Antique Show, and I have finally, after a very busy appraisal fair, gotten a little bit of a break, so I'm going to go shopping and show you what's at the show. Okay, we're going to come into this hall. You can hear the school bell. These folks set up across from me in Palm Beach, and they're here at this show, and they have a wonderful collection of sterling salt dips this time that I thought would be fun to show. The cobalt lining always seems to attract attention. Salt was served in a master salt that was put in the center of the table, and then you had a big master salt spoon, and then you'd put your pile of salt in your little salt dip and eat from that with a little silver salt spoon generally. That was a way to keep people from spreading germs back in the Victorian time that carried over as a form of fancy tableware. Beautiful Cambridge glass set with the gilding here. These folks deal in all things sterling, even this sterling overlay pipe in the stand. That's really fun. I have not seen a sterling overlay pipe in ages. They have this priced as at $95 with the silver overlay. And this is a Tiffany Wax Lamp. So you see the wax that has the wick in it. So it'd just be a little candle lamp to burn. And it was a chamber stick. You could take it with you. And it's got the little cap. This is an egg incubator, patented in 1907 from Lincoln, Nebraska. And if you open it up, you'll see in there, that is where you would incubate your eggs. And it's got the owner's manual and information and the whole thing. And I'm a little envious that it's sold. Look at this Art Deco wagon. I've only had one of these in my career. They come up on occasion, but a lot of them, again, went to the scrap drives during the Second World War if the kid was older and they didn't need it or weren't using it around the house. So not all that common. This one's priced at $225. These folks have really neat country store, kitchen, crockery, about every type of turn you could imagine. But she also bought a big collection of wall pockets, and I bought one of them from her yesterday because I thought it was really neat. Here we go with the various churns that you could see through. This one is particularly unusual. It's Safety Wide Mouth Mason, Salem Glassworks. Mason was a patent, and so you could be a different glass company, and if you paid, you could use their patent and make things. And then the piece on top here, Hole's Egg Beater, patented August 22nd, 1899, and April 3rd, 1900. The churns changed a lot over the years, but they had a basic format. By the 1930s, they were becoming electrified, and a lot of these got tossed, and that's why you see prices now between $100 and $250, depending on the piece. These folks have a neat old grain or flour bin with the timbre front that comes down like a cylinder. Flour bins typically were angled like this so you could get down into the bottom and not have a big area that was not touched because it would get old and not be very good to use. Some fun Corky pigs. There are a lot of different varieties in Corky pig, and certain ones like the yellow are hard to find. Now, Waterford was a really common pattern of depression glass, but this piece is really unusual, and the reason is that it has this metal bail. So some company decided that their blank, which was the Waterford pattern and was fairly basic, would look good and add some faceting without taking away from the rigory. And so that makes this a lot more special than the usual piece of Waterford. And it's priced at $32. I find that any of the pieces that are in these kind of gold bales are very popular right now. So while I'm thinking of it, please comment in the space below here and also hit the thumbs up button to like this video. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button below. Also, hit the bell below to be notified of new videos coming every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And thank you so much for following along. Let's go back to this video. Because they're English, I suppose it's a more specialized market, but if you were somewhere where there were a lot of horse people, have a good mark on them. He's written it on the tag, so but you can see it on the top too. It's in celluloid, made in London, and these would date to probably about 1920 or possibly slightly earlier, and so you're looking at kind of the end of a lot of people on horseback because they're switching over to cars. So these are neat. I like the fact that it's got the lettering and the numbers inside because it gives it a little different interest. I see a lot of industrial molds around here, but this one's really different, and I could see where you could use it as a base for something or even to set something on like a pedestal. It's just really cool. Attaching yourselves to a candidate in order to get votes is nothing new. You just have to be careful who you attach yourself to because sometimes it backfires. This is a neat piece here. This is an Eisenhower electioneer's scarf from the second election in 1956. Nice Mosher cranberry base. There's something we can show you about Mosher here. Look how it's beveled on the edge. Mosher beveled their edges so they wouldn't chip. That is unusual. Not a lot of companies did that, so that's a good hallmark of theirs. The picture puts me in mind of Wedgwood Queensware, but this is actually by the Minton factory in England, and they made wonderful porcelains. It's priced at $150. Interesting to see a pair of trench art bases that match. People did sometimes make them in pairs, but we just don't see that very often. This cloisonne is really nice because it's scenic, the colors are different. These gals have an antique mall in Illinois, and they have some interesting things, and one in particular I wanted to show if they haven't sold it is this. This is a Hemingway Insulator. We see this style, the number 42, all the time. It's very common for this shape. We see them in bottle blue-green all the time. Two tones we don't see. And when you start seeing unusual colors and swirls, they have $50 on this. It's possible that this could be worth double or triple that. They also have some nice little figural napkin rings. I always thought these were sweet from the Victorian era. They sell for around $50 a piece now. There was a time that they sold for quite a bit more. So another thing that's a good thing to be a collector for now if you're starting out. And then I wanted to show this because this is check. It's Basket of Flowers. It's signed. They have it priced at $30, which is about right. Look at the back and how old it looks, and the signature is Hussar D. That's how you tell that it's check, and this is actually 1990s. They were definitely trying to look like 1940s and 50s. They always are labeled, so they're not trying to fool anyone into thinking that they're older, but the look is old. So I wanted you to see that, so that if you see them out there, you'll know that it is a nice old piece, but that is something a little more contemporary than you might think. And this is a neat compact because it has a little clock in it. That's why it's priced at $50, and they do sell for about that with the timepiece in it if it works. This is a wonderfully hand-stitched piece. It's not wildly old, but the design is really good, and somebody did a whole lot of work on that. And I think $95 is rather reasonable for something that was all handmade. These are the folks who also have the 4-star quilt that you saw in the distance, priced at $295. Look at all the work in that, all of the stitching, all the quilting, even in the white spaces. And then they also have this really neat diamond quilt here, priced at $125, all hand-stitched as well. Hand-stitching is definitely more desirable, all things being equal, than machine stitching. This is a great old cast iron eagle mailbox that would have hung on a door. And with the eagle and the flags, I would date that to right about 1900, shortly after the Spanish-American War. That's where you see a lot of patriotic motifs come in. This is just a cute little jar from the Century of Progress with the little label. I've never seen this one before. $28 on that. And then she's got a piece of pottery called Bayment Pottery. Bayment is a little town in Illinois. I've never seen a piece of this before. I think I've heard of it. It's a porcelain bisque feel, and it's got a great mark. But it's really a very small, fairly obscure regional pottery, so the interest is going to be in this area for it. She has it priced at $49. Look at the little Girl Scout and Brownie dolls. These are cute. I haven't seen these before. Priced at $35 each. They look like they're the hard plastic from about 1960. This is fun. It's folk art. It probably was made in the 60s or 70s. I remember a lot of grandparent-age men back then liked to do this sort of thing because it was the kind of thing that they had done when they were kids, and I love that they put a light in it. It's priced at $85. That's just charming. This is an interesting display. They must have gotten these old stock from some company. They're old phone dial pieces, and they're $3 each. I think that's actually really fun. That could be a really great thing to repurpose in some manner. I'll have to see if I can come up with an idea. This Wainscott cabinet is interesting because it's a corner piece, and it would have been also used potentially as a dry sink because it's got the liner and a hole for drainage, so they could have put ice in here, which means someone could use it as a cooler now. That would be fun. Priced at $7.25. It's zinc lined. Unusual piece, I would say, dates to about the teens, maybe 1920. This is a curry comb for horses, and this lovely dealer here was telling me she's very good about writing her descriptions on her tags to help people. And, you know, one nice thing about going to shows is if the dealers are knowledgeable, they'll share information for you. It's a great way to learn more about this neat old stuff. And isn't that cool? I love the red handle. What do you think that is, 1950s or so?
Probably. We showed horses for years.
I know a fellow in Missouri who this is what he does in his stores. He makes these at angles and then he hangs things on them and that's his display.
Yes,
and
yes,
it really
yes.
looks great. Porcelain knob and everything is still there. Yeah.
Yes, which they usually are gone.
That's right. And $45 is actually a good price. If you look at what a new door costs.
15 miles from here is called Mount Vernon, Indiana.
Oh yes, I know Mount Vernon, yeah.
But it was from the Booker T. Washington School in Mount Vernon, the home of the Blue Devils ball team. This is where all the boys sit.
Well made. And well, I'm sure, you know, and the black schools didn't get the funding that the white schools got, so I'm sure that they had to make this themselves.
Yeah,
so I bet it weighs a ton. That's the kind of thing where it's so helpful when you put that information on, because otherwise it'd be lost and then it's just a bench.
Yeah, right.
But it's a lot more interesting because it's a part of local history. People always assume these are for ties, but this actually was a ribbon rack.
Yes,
They would actually tie ribbons in their hair, and that was popular with the Gibson girls. This is a nice old dip ladle, and it's handmade, and you can tell the age. They burned out the interior so that it would actually hold water better and not absorb into the wood. Priced at $39, that seems good. This one, this old bowl here, has a neat old repair with zinc where they nailed it together. People just made things do, and that is part of the appeal of primitives now. People like the wear. Old tankards, firkins, game boards. This is neat because we can see the back as well as the front, and it's an old pie safe, but look at the old paint. It's really true old paint. Look at the alligatoring and speckling that comes as a result. You can tell the tins has also been painted, and the stamping isn't so uniform. When you see new versions of these, the stamping is just perfect and everything is exactly the same, and that tells you that it's not really old. This one is really old. It's a very attractive piece. The paint is old. It's really kind of got everything you want if you are looking for this sort of furniture. And this is a type of furniture that we see a lot of people interested in now because they have great design and just a great aged look. This book is a really bad book. It is very valuable as well. It was by Ariel. He was a clergyman from Nashville who wanted to prove that the Bible did not include black people as having souls or being worthy of God's love, which is a pretty terrible thing to come from a minister. This is during Reconstruction. This one is a little later. It takes a cuter approach to belittling black people. The graphics are really fun and colorful, and it's the ABCs of Dixie, a plantation primer. It is similarly unkind, but in a softer way, and it is also very valuable. This morning we have frogs, koi frogs, Homeco frogs, ceramic frogs, flower frog frogs. Here's another flower frog. Whenever you see the holes in something like this, that's what it's for, is flower arranging. Now these folks came all the way from Alabama to do the show, and they have some neat stuff. They've got some old Aladdin lamps, and they have the Lincoln drape and the Washington drape. The Lincoln drape's a little more, well, funereal looking. These colors are fairly normal that we see, but this one in the ruby red is the one that's really hard to find. They used to sell for over $1,000. They're still several $100s today. They're pretty desirable. They have a lot of these old fobs that were given out, the various industrial equipment. We see a lot of these in the Midwest, but there are collectors for them elsewhere who have not seen so many. This is a cute piece made out of repurposed gears and parts. And then he's got this wonderful carnival donkey head. I just think that is the coolest thing. It's paper mache. It's got a great look. It's priced at $150, which to me does not seem bad. The condition is okay. I mean, it's old, it's been used a lot, so the fact that it exists at all is pretty amazing. Now the next gal here has a lot of larger items and things like these wonderful Victorian corbels. Look at that carved rope. That is really unusual. Now they need some restoration, although people are using them just as old fragments and not necessarily restoring them, but if you were going to put them on a house, you might like to do that. She's also got some neat wire garden furniture. This little wagon here is really cute. She's got $360 on that. And then here's a toy version of the same. And that's really cool. Look at the pinstriping and all the paint and the detail. It's amazing that somebody would go to this much trouble to make it as a toy. When we see this kind of pinstriping, we usually associate that with sometime around the 1900 date. And it's got all these old barrels and cotton bales and just really neat stuff. She's got just some really interesting primitives. The old coffee bin is a great old store display. You know, this stuff is the type of thing when you hear about old general store items that this is what people are really looking for. Oh, and she has her things in there, so maybe I shouldn't snoop. Well, look at this one instead. That's a crate, of course, that the coffee came in. This churn has wonderful old paint, and old paint really matters when it comes to primitives. And then this piece is neat. It's hand forged. It's $55, and it's a menorah. These folks have something I really like. It's just a silly thing from the 1970s, but it makes me smile and makes everybody else smile too. The Red Wing water cooler is one of the best pieces they made and not so easy to find. So dealers come from a long way to do this show. These folks are also from Alabama. I think there's dealers from about 5 different states here, and they get some really neat architectural stuff. Look at these old shutters, and you can tell by the side that these are plantation shutters, or at least from that vintage. These are going to be, I would think, early to mid 19th century. They've got this very nice old counter with the wainscot. Some good signage. I like the green seal paint over here. I wish I'd gotten around a little earlier because a lot of the folks have sold some of the really good stuff. These people had 3 dinette sets. One of them was yellow with little starbursts in it. It sold immediately yesterday. The pink set's the only one they've got left. A lot of these are by Salem, China, and other Ohio potters. Oh yes, Goldwater, A-U-H-T-O-O. They thought that was very clever back then. Fun group of salt and pepper shakers, including, of course, I look for Treasure Craft. These are Treasure Craft, the flat tire and the pump, the outhouse and the catalog, and the lunchbox and the thermos. And I believe this one is as well, and I haven't seen this one in person before. Salt Lock. That's kind of interesting. This one is also Treasure Craft, the turkey and the broiler. You know, these are pricing higher now because people are realizing that they're old and that they have some history behind them. They also have a lot of these really fun ones that hang. Look at the purple cows. Those are just insane. And I have to say, I've never seen that particular set before. There's so many salt and peppers that were made over the years. It's a great fun area to collect, but you will probably never be able to find one of each of them. So you may want to pick a maker, a category, that sort of thing. These folks need some sleep because they have a baby. And I've got to show this guy because I know there's another viewer out there who, like me, loved Underdog as a child. These folks do a really nice job of putting the display together where it looks like how you might display at your house. I like the stacks of luggage. A lot of people are stacking luggage and using it as bedside tables. I know there's a bed and breakfast in Port Townsend, Washington. It was the first place that I saw this done, and a lot of people have caught on since. Now these things a lot of younger people have not seen. These are folding drying racks. And you would just lift this out and put your linen on it. And you can put a bunch, and a lot of people like these because they use them for linen displays. This has great graphics. And they had a really wonderful dress on here yesterday that sold, so they've replaced it with another cool old vintage dress. Now these folks have the kind of booth that you see at high-end shows in the Mid-South, where it's a real focus on primitives and old items that are rediscovered and ready to put in your home. And they have some really cool stuff. I especially like this old arrow, which is an old cafe sign. Should date to probably the 1940s. And it works. And it's $195, which I think for what it is really a very viable price. These bears are a combination of Steiff and other ones, and you can see some have been well loved. The longer snouts give us an indication of an older age. And there's a child's pull-along buggy. One thing about traveling to different regions is you see different things that you may not know about. I did not know about Mary Porter, but I'm going to show these because here's a chance to showcase an artist that I didn't know. She apparently is known regionally because she was from Illinois and attended the Art Institute of Chicago in the 1920s. She has been exhibited, it says, which doesn't surprise me, and she did a lot of easel paintings and liked to paint on old wood board. And it's very folksy. And the prices, you can see, they did sell several of the pieces. So that gives you an idea of the value. These are little things that you might think were more contemporary. You might think these were not very old, or, oh, Mary Porter was someone's grandma. But look at the detail in the painting, and you start to see where the training comes in. So that's a new thing for me to look for in this part of the country. Well, I'm back in my civilian clothes and getting ready to go. The appraisal fair was a big success. I can't wait to show you that. It'll take a little while to process that video, but we'll have that for you soon. And I'm glad I got to show you the show too. It was a really fun one. Click that bell to be notified of future videos if you're a subscriber. If not, please do subscribe. You can check out memberships on the join button above, or if you don't see that, go to the link in the description. We will be back soon with more adventures from the world of antiques and vintage, so bye for now and see you soon. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below. Click the bell to be notified when new videos upload. Leave a comment below and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.